Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the monthly meeting of the Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control Board. I ask for your patience as we get everyone in place and ready to begin. I will call the meeting to order in just a few minutes.
One more board member.
Okay. Dr. Garsh. Mr. Perdon, Mr. Gurry, are we ready to begin the meeting?
Yes, Chairman.
I will now call the regular meeting of the Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control Board to order. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, we are conducting this monthly board meeting today by video teleconference. The first thing we have on the agenda is recognition of a quorum. I will conduct a roll call of board members that are present on this teleconference. When I call your name, please say here. Steve Sullivan. Dr. Colbert? Here. Dr. May?
Here.
Thank you. Candace White?
Here.
Thank you. Marissa Neal? Okay. Daniel Garsh? Here. Thank you. Mrs. Hampton, do we have any introductions this morning?
No, sir.
Ms. Hampton, do we have any public recognitions this morning?
Not today, Chairman Hilton.
Approval of minutes. Before we get into that, I just want to point out that we had several corrections for the meeting minutes. The first one, there was no lawn care report in the December packet. And on the minutes on the lights page, the next board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February the 15th instead of January 18th. So those are the two corrections that were made prior to the meeting. Are there any other questions regarding the corrections or any more corrections? Hearing none. The minutes of the public hearing held on December the 21st were distributed electronically for your review. Are there any changes to the minutes by board members? Okay. Hearing none, minutes are approved with no corrections. The regular meeting held on December 21st, the minutes of the regular meeting held on December 21st, 2022 were distributed electronically for your review. Are there any changes to the minutes by board members? Hearing none, minutes are approved with no corrections. Mr. Gurry, has anyone registered to make a comment this morning?
No, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Gurry, has anyone provided written comments?
No, Chairman.
Are there any members of the public in the Addison room that wish to make a comment? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none. Are there any other members of the public that wish to make a brief comment on the teleconference?
Zero raised hands.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? That completes the public comment portion of the meeting. Unfinished business. Agreed a board order with DuPont Specialty Products USA LLC. The agreed board order with DuPont has been continued to February 15th to allow for additional public comment. Any questions regarding that? I think we discussed that at the last meeting. Okay, thank you. New business, there is no new business for this morning. Committee reports, no committees met in the last month. Mrs. Hamilton, we're at the director's report.
Thank you, Chairman Hilton, and good morning, everyone. As you know, Mayor Greenberg and his team are now working to make Louisville a better place and improve the quality of life for residents. The district has met with new administration members, including Deputy Mayor Nicole George. We've begun planning for our fiscal year 24 budget, and we're looking forward to working together to improve air quality. They have not yet announced their new structure. It is different from the Fisher administration, but we hope to see that structure coming out in the next few days. We did receive word that a new head of the Office of Management and Budget has been appointed following the retirement of Monica Harmon at the end of December, and we're really glad for that. We've made some transitions in our Workday system, which is our bookkeeping system, among other things, and we definitely need the support. So we're glad for that. For those of you who have not heard, our new Director of the Office of Management and Budget is Angela Dunn. She worked with the district back in the early part of our reorganization, looking at some of our finances then. At last month's meeting, we introduced the district's new meetings, hearings, and events calendar page, which is now clearly linked on the front page and left-hand menu of our website to give folks an easier way to find out information about our upcoming meetings, public hearings, and other events. We hope that folks are finding this new page helpful, but please let us know if you have any recommendations or suggestions for improvement. Feedback on our website and on our work in general is always appreciated and can be sent to air@louisvilleky.gov, along with any questions or comments you may have. That new page is very timely. We do have some pending regulatory amendments. As the board may remember, in November, the district proposed some changes to Regulations 1.02, that's our definitions regulation. In particular, updating the definition of volatile organic compound and adding a list of trivial activities to that regulation. We also proposed amending Regulation 1.11, our open burning reg, to allow the use of certain accelerants for prescribed controlled burns. Updating Regulation 1.13, and to include certain changes recommended by the Jefferson County Attorney's Office to make our regulations more consistent with the authorizing statute and to better reflect the district's actual work practices, and also Regulation 1.15, version of the Federal Register incorporated by reference. We're delegated the Federal Clean Air Act to implement here in Jefferson County, and so we're going to update the Code of Federal Regulations that guide that federal work. You can find all of these proposed revisions, a red line strike through of the regulations to clearly show the proposed changes, a regulatory impact assessment, or RIA, which explains the action in detail and includes, among other things, an assessment of alternatives, an assessment of impacted communities, pollution reductions and increases, if any, along with other information about the proposed changes. Now you'll also find an FAQ, and this is new. It briefly summarizes the important information that's in the RIA. So it takes what might be a multi-page document down to one. In response to requests, the district has extended the public comment period on this reg package, scheduled a public meeting and 2 public hearings. Now, a public meeting is different than a public hearing. At a public hearing, the district will summarize the proposed regulations and then ask the public to offer comments orally. But there isn't any discussion at that time. That can be weird. We're really there just to take comments, not to have a discussion, which we can do at a public meeting. So a public meeting is a much more informal place where questions can be asked and a discussion about the proposal can be had. We hope that the public will join us tomorrow night, January 19th, at 6 o'clock for a virtual meeting with the district to discuss the proposed regulatory revisions. Following that meeting, we hope that the public will consider submitting a written comment during the public comment period, which extends until February the 16th, or attend and offer an oral comment at an in-person and virtual public hearing scheduled for February 9th at 6 p.m. and again on March 15th at 10 a.m. And this last public hearing will take place right before the board's regular March meeting, and again, both of those will be in person and virtual. You can find out more information about this proposed regulatory package on the district's meetings, hearings, and events calendar, or our proposed actions webpage. If you have difficulty accessing that information, please reach out. You can call 574-6000, and we'll help you find that. Are there any questions about that?
No? Any questions from board members? No?
All right, thank you. As we discussed at the December board meeting, the Metropolitan Sewer District continues its work required under the board's ongoing agreed board order to reduce odors from the Morris Foreman Water Quality Treatment Facility and the collection system. As part of that, MSD was required to submit a final report on its first phase of work to develop and implement an odor control master plan for Morris Foreman and the collection system, particularly west of 9th Street to the Ohio River. On December 27th, MSD submitted this final report. The district is reviewing it. It is 70 pages long. Copy will be posted to our website today, and we will distribute copies to the board members for their review. Given the importance of this issue to the community, we want everyone to have plenty of time to review the report before we ask MSD to present their work on this phase of the agreed board order at an upcoming board meeting, likely February or March. Are there any questions?
No.
It's kind of been a short but busy month already. There's lots of things going on both with the new administration and also with US EPA. On January 10th, EPA announced the availability of $100 million in environmental justice grants under the Inflation Reduction Act for the Environmental Justice Collaborative Problem Solving Program. This is a cooperative agreement program, and the Environmental Justice Government to Government Program. Under the Environmental Justice Collaborative Problem Solving Program, they've set aside $30 million in funding directly for community-based nonprofit organizations and their partnerships, with $5 million reserved for small community-based nonprofit organizations with 5 or fewer full-time employees. In total, EPA anticipates awarding approximately 50 awards between 50 awards of $500,000 and 30 awards of $150,000. Now, these funds are intended to provide financial assistance to eligible organizations who are working on projects to address local environmental and or public health issues in their communities. So these funds anticipate building collaborative partnerships with other stakeholders, including local businesses and industry, local government, and that can include the district, medical service providers and academia, and others, to develop solutions to significantly address environmental and or public health issues at the local level. The Environmental Justice Government to Government grant will provide an estimated $70 million that's split between state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, with the anticipated funding of approximately 70 projects of up to $1 million each over a 3-year period. These projects are expected to lead to measurable environmental or public health results in communities disproportionately burdened by environmental harms or risks. Per EPA, these models and these projects should leverage or utilize existing resources or assets of agencies to develop key tools and processes that integrate environmental justice considerations into governments and government programs. They've identified 3 priority areas and projects that address climate change, disaster resiliency, and or emergency preparedness, are located in or benefiting rural areas, and include conducting health impact assessments. Applications are due by April 10th, with projects to begin by October 1st. This is a really short time frame. We've shared this information with our community partners, and we'll share this information with the board in a separate email in the hopes that when you are talking to members of the community about your role as board members, that you have this information to share with them as well. There are also additional grant opportunities, as we understand it, that are coming to the forefront. We'll continue to keep the board informed about this grant and those other grants as we move forward. I know we talked about APCD's grant application for some American Rescue Plan monies last year. We were notified in November that we were not one of the successful applicants, but we had a conversation, Michelle King and I, yesterday with some folks from US EPA talking about our application. And I just want to thank Michelle for a truly remarkable application. We were this close to being awarded, and it was really meaningful to have the conversation about feedback. I'd also like to thank Billy DeWitt and his team. Our application was for an air sensor lending library, and we scored exceptionally high in community engagement, thanks to Ms. King, and also with our ability to execute quality air pollution projects, and that's thanks to Billy and his team. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have one regarding the environmental justice grants. Where can these nonprofits, where can they find the details of that? Is that in the Federal Register?
It's in an announcement, Carl, and I will send that out to the board.
Yeah.
There is a listening session that's planned for people to, get on a call with EPA and kind of walk through the details. Okay. I think for the 26th.
Yes, and if anyone here or listening would like to find that information, you just Google EPA Environmental Justice Grant.
Oh, okay.
Great webpage, and all of the up-to-date information is right there, including registration for those listening sessions.
Thank you.
We attend those listening sessions. We find those to be very helpful, not only because we hear from EPA their expectations for the grants, but we also hear other people ask really great questions, so they're beneficial. All right. With that in mind, as I mentioned, it's been a really busy month. Even though it feels rather short, we've had 2 holidays already, so it's been a bit busy. On January the 6th, US EPA finally came out with a proposal for a revised primary health-based annual PM 2.5 standard. You may recall I've been telling you that this has been imminent from EPA for over a year, and it's finally here. So we're going to dive into that a little bit today. I'll let you know that it is a big regulatory proposal in its current form, pre-publication, which means it's 1.5 spaced in between the text, so it's nice to read. It's over 500 pages. When it's printed in the Federal Register, it'll be much smaller, but so will the font. So just a heads up. To put things into perspective, US EPA currently has a national ambient air quality standard for particulate matter. This is fine particulate for the annual standard of 12 micrograms per cubic meter. They are proposing a national ambient air quality standard within a range of 9 to 10 micrograms per cubic meter after they carefully reviewed the most recently available scientific evidence and technical information and consulted with the agency's independent scientific advisors. This is new. This is the first time that any of us have seen EPA propose a range for a national ambient air quality standard as opposed to simply a numeric standard. They are also taking comment on a standard as low as 8 micrograms per cubic meter and as high as 11 micrograms per cubic meter. So we've seen them take comment on a range outside of a specific NAC standard, but now we have 2 ranges within 2 ranges, so it'll be interesting to see EPA move forward. As part of their proposal, they too have to provide a regulatory impact assessment. It is a wealth of information. It's also about 480 pages long, but it really is where EPA digs into their thought process. They have maps that show the areas that will be in attainment and non-attainment at 8, 9, 10, and 11 micrograms per cubic meter, as well as a really detailed explanation of the cost and benefits of this proposal. We'll talk about some of those in just a moment. In this proposal, EPA has proposed to not change the secondary welfare-based annual PM 2.5 standard the primary and secondary 24-hour PM 2.5 standards, and the primary and secondary PM 10 standards. So those are proposed to remain unchanged. In addition, EPA proposed revisions to other key aspects related to the particulate matter National Ambient Air Quality Standard, including revisions to the Air Quality Index, which of course tracks with that National Ambient Air Quality Standard, and monitoring requirements. With the board's permission and the assistance of my colleague Byron Gary, the board's secretary-treasurer, and the district's regulatory coordinator, I'd like to provide you with a brief NAAQS status update, including ozone and the newly proposed PM 2.5 NAAQS and our current status.
Good.
Okay. It's all right with you all. I'm going to come stand down there.
Okay.
All right. Okay, next slide. You've heard me mention many times before that the Clean Air Act is a really unique piece of environmental legislation. It's a really robust program. As part of that, it includes local programs on equal footing as our state partners, and that's truly unique in the world of environmental regulation. It also sets into place an incredibly impressive continuous improvement program. Specifically, the National Ambient Air Quality Standards are places where Congress charged U.S. EPA with developing standards for 6 criteria pollutants that are common in outdoor air, considered harmful to public health and the environment, and are ubiquitous. They come from numerous and diverse sources. And that's that continuous improvement process in play, where EPA is required to periodically review those standards, and when the science behind them changes, it needs to periodically strengthen those standards to keep them protective of human health and the environment. Next slide, please. So I want to be clear here. The National Ambient Air Quality Standards require EPA to set the standards. They require state and local programs to develop the plans to reach the standards. So the process that we use to reach attainment is just that. It's the process of the Clean Air Act. Being in non-attainment is not punishment. It's part of the process to improving our air quality. So back in 2021, the board may recall, we were in non-attainment for ozone. So we've set out for you today just a brief reminder of that ozone timeline from when the standard changed the last time. And you'll see this doesn't happen overnight. In 2015, EPA strengthened the ozone National Ambient Air Quality Standard. A couple of years later, those implementation plans were due, and also some assurances from state and local programs that they had all the tools in place necessary to make reductions if they were going to reach the standard by the marginal attainment deadline. In September of 2022, we submitted our redesignation request and maintenance plan to U.S. EPA, and right now we are in their approval queue. So we are hoping at this point, we spoke with them the day before yesterday, and yesterday as well on a different call, about approving our request for redesignation.
Put that mic in front of you.
Sorry.
Not audible to people on that.
My apologies. So at this point, our hope is that our approval for that redesignation to attainment for our ozone standard is imminent, and then we'll actually see it here before the start of ozone season. Next slide. Just briefly, this shows you where we are with our preliminary 2022 ozone data. And again, that's a 3-year data set, so it's 2020 through 2022. And right now, we're still maintaining the standard. We had a little uptick last summer, very late in the summer, some unusual fall weather. But we do have our fingers crossed. Ozone season will begin again on March 1st. Next slide. And this really kind of just shows you in a broader view how the process works. You'll see there that we have on our redesignation request, it's based on our 2019 to 2021 ozone season data at 69 parts per million. And our data continues. We bumped up a little bit to 70 parts per billion. And at this point, US EPA has taken their own action because we didn't achieve that deadline by the marginal non-attainment date. They actually bumped us up. And again, that bump up process is not punishment, it's just process. So for us, we hope to see that ozone season come in like a lamb and stay that way during the next year, and for US EPA to quickly redesignate our area to attainment for the 2015 ozone standard. Next slide, please. All right, so that brings us kind of full circle. You know where we're at. As soon as we hear anything from EPA that they're going to propose our redesignation request, we'll let everyone know. Next slide. Okay, so Byron has put this up here to kind of remind folks that this process doesn't happen overnight. The green boxes are steps that have already been taken in EPA's review of that National Ambient Air Quality Standard for particulate matter. They've done their internal review of the science. They've met with their independent scientific advisors. They've done their rulemaking process, which includes internal drafting and executive review. It goes to the Office of Management and Budget. And now we have a proposal that's pending publication. The final rule, when it's established, will have a standard somewhere between 9 and 10, although they are still taking comment between 8 and 11 micrograms per cubic meter. Again, they are not proposing to revise the 24-hour standard. Next slide, please. So where does that leave us right now? Currently, our 2019 to 2021 design value, so that's our entire design value that has been QA/QC'd and certified, that has us at 10.4 micrograms per cubic meter. Our current 2022 design value is 10.2. It is our Durrett Lane near road monitoring site that is our design value site, and that's to be expected. What's been a little unexpected has been this uptick in our particulate matter monitoring. You'll see we had a couple of low years down there in 2016 and 2017, and that number has steadily crept up. A lot of this has been driven by some national events, including wildfires in the West. We've had a few Saharan dust storms during this time period, which add up into that design value average. Our air quality report has a really nice explanation of what goes into that design value. So for the 24-hour standard, it's just the average of the annual means of 3 consecutive complete years of air quality data. For our 24-hour standard, it's a little bit different, but it is intended to evaluate and reduce short-term exposures to particulate matter. So, encourage you to read the explanations there in our air quality report, and if you have any questions, let us know. That red line that's shown in there, that's where we're going to have to hit for us to be in that new standard between 9 and 10 micrograms per cubic meter. So, with that, I'm going to briefly recap. EPA is proposing to revise the annual PM standard. For the annual standard, It will be between 9 and 10 micrograms per cubic meter. They are seeking comment on other levels between 8 and 11 micrograms per cubic meter. It's weird. It's almost like they're looking for the Goldilocks spot. And again, first time we've ever seen that. They are proposing to retain the current 24-hour PM standard without revision. They're proposing certain environmental justice areas will need to add additional PM monitors. They're also proposing some technical air monitoring requirement revisions, and they are also going to change the air quality index to account for the revised NAAQS when it's finalized. Based on our current understanding, we expect this proposal to be finalized sometime in 2024. I want to take a moment to commend Billy DeWitt and his air monitoring team for their foresight and work following the district's reorganization in 2014 to upgrade and modernize our particulate matter monitoring network. Our network is robust, and the team produces high-quality gravimetric data using the federal reference method and continuous data using the federal equivalency method. If you are brave and you dive into reading this proposal, those are two terms that you'll see a lot. Based on an analysis of the 2019 to 2021 data, EPA has identified areas that may be designated as non-attainment for a revised NAAQS of between 9 and 10 micrograms per cubic meter. At 9, Louisville is one of 50 areas that would be designated as non-attainment. At 9, Louisville's one of 62. At 10, we're one of 50. Designations will be made in 2026 based on 2022 to 2024 or 2023 to 2025 data. So we're not clear yet on which data set they'll be using. Attainment of the NAAQS is required in most areas by 2032. At some point, if you're interested, we can talk about California and their air quality issues with particulate matter. They are not expected to reach this level by 2032. In the meantime, we're not waiting to see what happens with the proposed rule. We continue our work maintaining our glide path to attainment, and that includes federal rules that are on the books and forthcoming, as well as reductions we know that investments made with the funding under the Inflation Reduction Act will help produce. And there are other reductions that will assist areas in attaining a revised standard. Here's a brief list that includes some local reductions from changes in electric generation. In 2023, we have the model year GHG emission CAFE standards kick in for gas vehicles between 2023 and 26 models. There'll be co-benefits there for criteria pollutants. There are proposed greenhouse gas emission guidelines for electric generating units that will further accelerate transition from coal to cleaner burning fuels. The cross-state air pollution rule for 2015 ozone standard budgets start applying. If they're finalized, that's still a little uncertain, but we hope to see those finalized soon. In 2024, LG&E will close Unit 1 at Mill Creek to comply with the Clean Water Act. In 2026, the 2015 cross-state air pollution rule budget resets. This will lead to significant ratcheting down of NOx standards for electric generating units and possible additional shutdowns. In 2027, the model year heavy-duty diesel NOx standards apply going forward. That's an 80% reduction over current standards for new trucks. And LG&E Mill Creek Unit 2 will shut down. In 2028, additional coal-fired electric generating units will retire, and that includes the final shutdown of AEP Rockport, which is the largest upwind coal plant. And particulate matter is a little unusual. It's a direct emission. There are many sources that we can all think of, including coal-fired electric generating utility stations, construction projects, vehicles, but it's also a secondary pollutant. So places where we reduce things like sulfur, including from fuel burning in diesel trucks, that reduces particulate matter as well. We'll dig into this a little bit more at the next board meeting, but EPA has estimated their annual benefits and costs in 2032, and nationally they estimate that under a 10 microgram standard, there would be 1,700 avoided premature deaths, 110,000 avoided lost workdays, $17 billion in net benefits, $95 million in costs, while a 9 micrograms per cubic meter standard would include 4,200 avoided premature deaths, 270,000 avoided lost workdays, $43 billion in net benefits, and $395 million in costs. They also have broken that down for 8 and 11. If needed, plans to bring a non-attainment area into compliance will likely be due sometime in 2027 to 2028. And again, it's the process of the Clean Air Act. Currently, EPA has proposed a 60-day public comment period once the proposal is published in the Federal Register. They've also gone ahead and proposed a couple of public meetings. Those will be scheduled as well. To assist those who may want to provide comments to EPA, we'll share more information, particularly about the proposed NAAQS and the public health benefits, and how and where to comment with the board and others at the next board meeting. Are there any questions?
I just have one. Going back to the ozone season that starts March 1st, is that regional for everybody in this region, or is that for the whole United States? Because I can imagine March 1st in New York wouldn't be the same as March 1st in Louisville.
It does vary.
So is it regional, that they set the standards? Does anybody?
The calendar for the actual season is set within the federal regulation, and it's different for regions, different regions.
Okay, that's what I
Some
thought.
people are all year long.
Right, okay, good, thank you.
Any other questions?
One, on the range between 9 and 10, I guess that means either 9 or 10, something in between like 9.5.
Possible. Yes, that's possible.
Yeah.
This is a national ambient air quality standard, so they don't break it down regionally. In some respects, they do, and the way they do that is by how they designate you. So when we were originally designated for ozone, we were in marginal non-attainment, and that's based on where our design value is compared to the standard. And so if you're, I'm not going to get the numbers exactly right, but for the 70 part per million standard for ozone, if you were between 70 and 72, you were marginal. Between 72 and 75, you were moderate. Between 75 and 80, you were severe. What goes above severe? Extreme. So there's this range, and each of those ranges in that designation process open up different tools in the toolbox of the Clean Air Act. When we meet next time, I will go ahead and just briefly touch on California, because they're not meeting these standards. They're still have areas in non-attainment for the 1997 particulate matter standard. So the Clean Air Act takes into account that areas still need to continue to have economic development and growth, but it does kind of ratchet up and add on additional tools and stringency to bring those pollution levels down.
My next question, did they delineate what the 95 for the?
So there are some breakdowns in that, and we can provide a little bit of detail when we come next June. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Do you know when it's going to be in the Federal Register?
So the question is, do we know when it's going to be in the Federal Register? And the unfortunate answer is soon.
Okay.
So we will use our social media to alert people that EPA has since published that, and that 60-day public comment period has started. Given something of this size, it would not be unusual for EPA to extend that public comment period, particularly since they've taken this range approach. There's a lot of other things in the proposal itself that they're taking comment on, and several things that they've pushed off into the implementation phase of the actual NAC standard. So when they finalize the rules, there's another part of the process that comes out, implementation guidance. And in particular, they're taking comment on how to treat exceptional events. So it's a work in progress.
Any other questions from board members? If not, thank you, Mrs. Hapman, for a very detailed report.
All right, thank you very much.
Moving right along, the other staff reports were distributed electronically. Are there any questions by board members regarding the air quality data report? Okay. The air toxic report. Questions on that one? What about the enforcement status report? Well, this is only, we used to have 3 or 4 pages for the enforcement status, now it's 1 page. Thank you. Any questions on the enforcement status report? What about the excess mission report? Seemed like it was pretty active in December.
We had that spate of very cold weather.
Okay. The complaint and investigation summary.
I have a question on that. I think on the last page.
Page 505.
Yeah, there are a bunch of complaints there. It doesn't, well, the column heading says, summary of inspection notes and current status. It doesn't seem to have anything on the current status. Current status being well, there's this action taken for.
So those are the headings that goes to the other page 4 above it at the bottom. Those are ongoing investigations.
Oh, okay.
That have been left open. So, you know, for example, the MSD odors in the West 9th Street.
Yeah.
We've been getting inundated with complaints. Rather than breaking them out individually and having this report be 20 pages long, we've tried to group them together.
Okay.
So we are picking up odors when we do investigations. We haven't moved it to enforcement yet, so we have left it as an ongoing investigation. That's what that section on the report.
Okay.
Maybe you could say, ongoing investigation.
I appreciate the feedback. I'll look into that and see.
Still working on it, still getting work done.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions from board members on that report? The last one is the lawn care. Any questions on that one? It's a good report. I like that. I had no questions on that one. Are there any questions or comments from board members on any of these reports? Looks good.
This is a really good report. It's on the webpage.
The lawn, is that on the website? It is.
Included in the board report, and we linked it on the lawn care website
Okay.
here.
Bradley Coombs is the author of the report, and he works under Michelle in our program planning area.
That's a very good detailed report. I like that. Yeah. Very detailed. Good reading.
Good pollution reduction at the neighborhood level. It's a great program. In fact, we recently had an outreach from one of our partners, from a sister agency, looking to establish something like the Lawn Care for Cleaner Air program Their budget's like ours on steroids, though. For a whole state, it would be a fantastic budget to have, but certainly it's surprising how many times APCD is the little agency that can and does, and on a national level, how many times we're able to provide best practices to our peers for outreach. This is a great example. This is a pollution prevention program that, takes place at the neighborhood level where people breathe. We use our penalty funds to support that program. We think it's a very effective way to have those pollution improvements at places where people are. But at the same time, the number of calls that I'm on where our monitoring program is really leading. In fact, yesterday during our call with EPA on our grant, getting some feedback on our grant application, the person who managed that national grant is moving in to manage the photochemical assessment monitoring, or PAMS program, nationally. But for the assistance of Andrea Cooley, Billy DeWitt, and Brian Paris, to bring him up to speed on the PAMS program, he'd still be trying to figure out which way was up. So he was grateful for their assistance.
Thank you. I will now adjourn this regular meeting of the board, and thank you for your attendance and participation. The next board meeting is Wednesday, February the 15th at 10 a.m.